Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
How is your health, Kritika, now?
It's good. And
Okay.
how is your health?
I am fine. Last week you couldn't join, no? So me and Amit could complete a few slokas. So we have to continue with the 15th sloka from today. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Please continue, ma'am. Hare Krishna. Shall we do some prayers and we'll start?
Yes, Mataji.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaya Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Yes, ma, start.
Shopnishad 15. Hiranmayena patrena Satyasha Pitam Mukham Tattvam Pushanna Appavruna Satyadharmaya Drishyate. Translation. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lies, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord explains his personal rays, Brahma-Jyotir, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form in this way. Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya vyayasya cha sattvatasya cha dharmasya sukhashay Kanti Kasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are the three aspects of the same absolute truth. Brahman is the aspect most easily perceived by the beginner. Paramatma, the super soul, is realized by those who have further progressed, and Bhagwan, realization, is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.7, where Lord Shri Krishna says that he is the ultimate concept of the absolute truth. Tattva parataram nanyat. Therefore, Krishna is the source of the Brahma Jyotir as well as the all-pervading Paramatma. Later in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Krishna further explains, Athava bahuneta kim kim jnatena tavarjana vistabhasham idam kritsnam ekas ekam shena sthito jagat. But what need is there, Arjun? For all this detailed knowledge, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Thus, by his one Tahiri expansion, all-pervading Paramatma, the Lord maintains the complete material cosmic creation. He also maintains all manifestations in the spiritual world. Therefore, in this Smriti mantra of Shri Ishopanishad, the Lord is addressed as Purushan, the ultimate maintainer. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is always filled with transcendental bliss, Anandamaya Abhyasa. When he was present at Vrindavan in India 5,000 years ago, he always remained in transcendental bliss, even from the beginning of his childhood pastimes. The killings of various demons, such as Agha, Baka, Putana, and Pralambha, were but pleasure excursions for him. In his village of Vrindavan, he enjoyed himself with his mother, brother, and friends, and when he played the role of naughty butter thief, all his associates enjoyed celestial bliss of its stealing. The Lord's fame as a butter thief is not reapproachable, for by stealing butter, the Lord gave pleasure to his pure devotees. Everything the Lord did in Vrindavan was for the pleasure of his associates there. The Lord created these pastimes to attract the Lord created these pastimes to attract the dry speculators and the acrobats of the so-called Hatha Yoga system who wish to find the absolute truth. Of the childhood play between the Lord and his playmates, the cohort boys, Shukdev Goswami says in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.12.11, Itham satam brahma sukhanubhutya tasyam gatanam paradevatana maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vichafru kritapunya punja. The personality of Godhead, who is perceived as the impersonal, blissful Brahman by the Jnanis, who is worshipped as the Supreme Lord by devotee in the mood of servitorship, and who is considered an ordinary human being by mundane people, played with the cowherd boys who had attained their position after accumulating many pious activities. Thus, the Lord is always engaged in the transcendental loving activities with his spiritual associates in various relationships of Santa, neutrality, Dasya, servitorship, Sakhya, friendship, Vatsalya, parental affection, and Madhurya, conjugal love. Since it is said that Lord Krishna never leaves Vrindavan Dham, one may ask how he manages the affairs of the creation. This is answered in the Bhagavad Gita 13.14 to 18. The Lord pervades the entire material creation by his plenary part, known as Paramatma or Super Soul. Although the Lord personally has nothing to do with material creation, maintenance, and destruction, He causes all these things to be done by His planetary expansions, the Paramatma. Every living entity is known as Atma, soul, and the principal Atma who controls them all is Paramatma, the Super Soul. This system of God realization is a great science. The materialistic Sankhya yogis can only analyze and meditate on the 24 factors of material creation, and for they have very little information of the Purush, the Lord, and the impersonal transcendentalists are simply bewildered by the glaring effulgence of the Brahma Jyotir. If one wants to see the absolute truth in full, one has to penetrate beyond the 24 material elements, beyond,
And
and
the fading effulgence.
the glaring effulgence as well. Sri Ishopanishad points towards this direction, pray, praying for the removal of Hiranmaya Patra, the dazzling covering of the Lord. Unless this covering is removed, so one can perceive the real face of the personality of Godhead, factual realization of the absolute truth can never be achieved. The Paramatma feature of the Lord, the personality of Godhead, is one of the three plenary expansions or Vishnu Tattvas, collectively known as the Purusha Avtaras. One of these Vishnu Tattvas, who is within the universe, is called as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. He is the Vishnu among the three principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and he is the all-pervading Paramatma in each and every individual living entity. The second Vishnu Tattva within the universe is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. The
Collective super soul of all living entities.
beyond this to Karnodakshaya Vishnu, who lies in the causal ocean. He is the creator of all universes. The yoga system teaches the serious student to meet the Vishnu Tattvas after going beyond the 24 material elements of the cosmic creation. The culture of empiric philosophy helps one realize the impersonal Brahma Jyotir, which is the glaring effulgence of the transcendental body of Lord Shri Krishna. That the Brahma Jyotir is the Krishna's effulgence is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14.27 as well as the Brahma Samhita 5.40. यस्य प्रभा प्रभूतो जगत अंडकोटि कोटिस्त्व अशेष वसुधादि विभूतिनां तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलम् अनंत अशेषभूतं गोविंदमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. In the millions and millions of the universe, there are innumerable planets, and each and every one of them is different from others by its cosmic constitution. All of these planets are situated in the corners of Brahma Jyotir. This Brahma Jyotir is but the personal rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, whom I worship. This mantra from the Brahma Samhita is spoken from the platform of factual realization of the absolute truth, and the Smriti mantra of Sri Ishopanishad under discussion confirm this mantra as a process of realization. The Ishopanishad mantra is a simple prayer to the Lord to remove the Brahma Jyotir so that one can see his real face. This Brahma Jyotir effulgence is described in detail in several mantras from the Mundak Upanishad 2.2.10 to 12. Hiranmaye Pare Koshe Virjam Brahma Nishkalam Tat Shrubham Jyotis Tat Yad Atma Vido Vido न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्रो तारकम नेम विद्युतो भान्ति कुतो अयम अग्नि तम एव भान्तम अनुभाति सर्वम तस्य भास सर्वम इदं विभाति ब्रह्मैदेव अमृतं पुरस्तद्ब्रह्म पश्चात् ब्रह्म दक्षिणस्तच्चोत्तरेण अधश्चोर्ध्वं च पृष्ठात् ब्रह्मे vedam vishvam idam varishtam. In the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering, is the unlimited Brahman effulgence, which is free from material contamination. That effulgent white light, is understood by the transcendentalists to be the light of all lights. In that realm, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity for illumination. Indeed, whatever illumination appears in the material world is only a reflection of that supreme illumination. That Brahman is in front and in back, in the north, south, east, and west, and also overhead and below. In other words, the supreme Brahman effulgence spreads throughout both the material and spiritual skies. Perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahman effulgence. This knowledge can be gained from such scriptures as Srimad Bhagavatam, which is perfectly elaborates the science of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the author Srila Vyasadeva has established that one will describe the supreme truth as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan, according to one's realization of him. Srila Vyasadeva never states that the supreme truth is a jiva, an ordinary living entity. The living entity should never be considered that all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face. The conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the supreme truth will realize the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord but has little or no information on the spiritual potencies, he attains the Paramatma realization. Thus, both Brahman and Paramatma realization of the absolute truth has partial realizations. However, when one realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in full potency after removal of Hiranyamaya Patra, one realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Lord Sri Krishna, who is known as Vasudeva, is everything, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. He is Bhagwan, the root, and Brahman and Paramatma are his branches. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.46 and 47, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalists: the worshippers of impersonal Brahman, Jnanis, the worshippers of Paramatma future, Yogis, and the devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, Bhaktas. It is stated that the Jnanis, those who have cultivated Vedic knowledge, are better than ordinary fruity workers, that the Yogis are still greater than the Jnanis, and that among all Yogis, those who constantly serve the Lord with all their energies are the topmost. In summary, a philosopher is better than the laboring man, a mystic is superior to a philosopher, and of all the mystic yogis, he who follows Bhakti Yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord, is the highest. Sri Isopanishad directs us toward this perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So in the very beginning, the translation says a pure devotee wanted to see the Lord without any the outer coverings. That is the purest form of the Lord he wanted to see. Okay, and the entire description shows different type of devotees from Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan stage. And at the end, it also represents the Bhagavan is the root, and Brahman and Paramatma are its branches. It is also been compared to that of the sun, the center of the sun disk, and the sun rays. Okay, the effulgence and all. Okay, and at the same time, the impersonal type of bhakti is also been described here. But whatever said and done, the ultimate thing is that, as described in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, whatever type of yoga you do, the ultimate thing is that the Bhakti Yoga is the highest of all. Why? Because in Krishna consciousness, all your senses and your mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. And in that way, it's easy for us to achieve the higher goal. That is, it's easy for us to go on a spiritual path. So, and this particular Ishopanishad is directing towards that perfection of reaching the God. Hare Krishna. So, next one.
Ishopanishad 16. Pushsan ekarshe yama surya prajapatya vyuha rashmin samuh tejo yatte rupam kalyano tamam pratyapashami yo aso purusha sa ahamasmi. Translation. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. But the sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quality. The sun is one, but the molecule of the sun's rays are innumerable. The sun's rays constitute part of the sun, and the sun and its rays conjointly constitute the complete sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly, within the supreme spiritual planet Golok Vrindavan, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating, the Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes, as verified in Brahma Samhita 5.29. Chintamani prakhar satmasau kalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira abhipalantam lakshmi sahasra shattasambhramasya sevamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desires in abode, filled with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of wish-fulfilling trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, or goddesses of fortune. The Brahma Jyotir is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from the supreme spiritual planet, Golok Vrindavan, just as the sun's rays emanate from the sun globe. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahma Jyotir, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. The impersonalized philosophers, blinded as they are by the dazzling Brahma Jyotir, can realize neither the factual abode of the Lord nor his transcendental form. Limited by their poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all blissful transcendental form of Lord Krishna. In this prayer, therefore, Sri Shoknishad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahma Jyotir so that the pure devotee can see his all blissful transcendental form. By realizing the impersonal Brahma Jyotir, one experiences the auspicious aspects of the Supreme, and by realizing the Paramatma, or all-pervading feature of the Supreme, one experiences an even more auspicious enlightenment. But by meeting the personality of Godhead himself face to face, the devotee experiences the most auspicious feature of the Supreme. Since he is addressed as the primeval philosopher and maintainer and well-wisher of the universe, the supreme truth cannot be impersonal. This is the verdict of Sri Upanishad. The word Pushan, maintainer, is specially significant, for although the Lord maintains all beings, he specifically maintains his devotees. After surpassing the impersonal Brahma Jyotir and seeing the personal aspects of the Lord, he is the most auspicious eternal form. The devotee realizes absolute truth in full. In the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami states, the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in the personality of Godhead because he is almighty and possesses full transcendental potencies. The full potencies of the absolute truth is not realized in the Brahma Jyotir. Therefore, Brahman realization is only partial realization of the personality of Godhead. O learned sages, the first syllable of the word Bhagwan, Bha, has two meanings. The first is one who fully maintains, and the second is guardian. The second syllable Ga means guide, leader, or creator. The syllable Van indicates that every living being lives in him and that he also lives in every being. In other words, the transcendental sound Bhagwan represents infinite knowledge, potency, energy, opulence, strength, and influence, all without tinge of inability. The Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees and guides them progressively on the path towards devotional perfection. As the leader of his devotees, he ultimately awards the desired results of devotional service by giving himself to them. The devotee of the Lord sees the Lord eye to eye by his causeless mercy. Thus, the Lord helps his devotees reach the supermost spiritual planet, Golok Vrindavan. Being the creator, he can bestow all necessary qualifications upon his devotees so that they can ultimately reach him. The Lord is the cause of all causes. In other words, since there is nothing that caused him, he is the original cause. Consequently, he enjoys his own self by manifesting his own internal potency. The external potency is not exactly manifested by him, for he expands himself as the Purushas, and it is in these forms that he maintains the features of the material manifestation. By such expansions, he creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation. The living entities are also differentiated expansions of the Lord Himself, and because some of them desire to be lords and imitate the Supreme Lord, He allows them to enter into the cosmic creation with the option to fully utilize their propensity to lord it over nature. Because of the presence of His parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world, it stirs into action and reaction. Thus, the living entities are given full facilities to lord it over material nature, but the ultimate controller is the Lord Himself in His plenary feature as Paramatma, the Super Soul, who is one of the Purushas. Thus, there is gulf of difference between the living entity Atma and the controlling Lord Paramatma, the Soul, and the Super Soul. Paramatma is the controller and Atma is the controlled. Therefore, they are in different categories. Because the Paramatma fully cooperates with the Atma, he is known as the constant companion of the living being. The all-pervading feature of the Lord, which exists in all circumstances, both waking and sleeping, as well as in potential states, and from which the Jeev Shakti living force is generated as both conditioned and liberated souls, is known as Brahman. Since the Lord is the origin of both Paramatma and Brahman, He is the origin of all living entities and all else that exists. One who knows this engages himself at once in the devotional service of the Lord. Such a pure and fully cognizant devotee of the Lord is fully attached to Him in heart and soul, and whenever such a devotee assembles with similar devotees, they have no engagement but glorification of Lord's transcendental activities. Those who are not as perfect as the pure devotees, namely those who have realized only the Brahman and Paramatma features of the Lord, cannot appreciate the activities of perfect devotees. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge within their hearts, and thus, out of His special favor, He dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. The speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they more or less depend on their own strength. As stated in Katha Upanishad 1.2.23, the Lord can be known only by those whom He favors, and not by anyone else. Such special favors are bestowed upon His pure devotees only. Sri Ishopanishad thus points to the favor of the Lord, which is beyond the purview of the Brahma Jyotir. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Who wanted to see Lord? And that jignasa to see the Lord and know his glories and all those things comes from the, what do you say, he only creates that, and he will only facilitate the required knowledge to know about the Lord also. So how we'll come to see about him? What? Because both the Atma and Paramatmas are interconnected, isn't it? So he is already there as a super soul within each and every living entity. And that's again his mercy. Then only we can see him. Okay. Hare Krishna. We will complete today 17 and 18 also. Pritika?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, continue. Ma'am.
Okay. Isopanishad 17. Vayur anilam amritam. Athedam basmantam shariram. Om krato smara kritam smara. Krato smara kritam smara. Translation. Let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of the life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. But the temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2.20 clearly says that after the destruction of material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless and that takes a shape according to the form of the indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of material body. In the material world, material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating varieties of bodies for the living beings according to their propensities for sense gratification. The living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite suitable for eating stool, that of a hawk. Similarly, one who wants to eat flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool, even in the most aboriginal state. Human teeth are so made that they can chew and cut fruits and vegetables, although there are two canine teeth, so that primitive human can eat flesh if they so desire. But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. They change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable to worm life, from worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to the human form. The highest developed form in this human form, when it is possessed of full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up material body, which will be turned to ashes, and all the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. The yogi generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahmarandhra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body, and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occurs only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere where he can develop completely different type of body, a spiritual body which never has to meet death or change. Here in the material world, material nature forces the living entities to change his body due to his different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various phases of life, from germs to the topmost perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigods. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is same whether he is in the body of a hawk or in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to the Bhagavad Gita 7.19, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord for many, many lifetimes of culturing knowledge. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcels of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahmajyoti. As we have learned from the previous mantras, the Brahmajyoti emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks, and that are individual identities with full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in material world to become false lords under the dictation of the sense. The desire for lordship is material disease of the living being, for under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahmajyoti does not represent mature knowledge. Only by surrendering unto the Supreme Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service does one reach the highest perfectional stage. In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of the God after relinquishing his material body and material air. The devotees prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities performed during the existence of the material body, and consequently he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirms this truth. Yam yam vapi sparam bhavam त्यजति अंतकलेवरम tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Thus, the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next step. Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. The devotees, however, develop a sense of love for Godhead by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if at the time of death the devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifice, but even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee. The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with the devotees in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30 to 34. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they may be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, that is merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. How much more more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to the temporary, miserable world, engage in the loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this verse in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the sense, even though such a devotee may seem to be Sudurachar, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word Sudurachar. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of body and again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed in one's occupation as the devotees of the Lord, and one performs actions in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of this body. The propagation of activities for maintenance of body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in devotional service, as long as the proportion of devotional service does not come to the right point. There is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long because by the grace of Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is only right path. If one is on right path, even an occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization. The facilities of devotional service are denied the impersonalists because they are attached to the Brahmajyotir feature of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantras, they cannot penetrate the Brahmajyotir because they do not believe in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly world jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor, as confirmed in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 12.5. All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtainable by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. 1. Hearing about the Lord. 2. Glorifying the Lord. 3. Remembering the Lord. 4. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord. 5. Worshipping the Lord. 6. Offering prayers to the Lord. 7. Serving to the Lord. 8. Enjoying friendly association with the Lord. And 9. Surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with the Lord. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection. First, by hearing the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attains the desired result. Second, just by glorifying the Lord, Shukdev Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attains his perfection. By praying to the Lord, Akrur attains the desired result. Fourth, by remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. Fifth, by worshipping the Lord, Prithvi Maharaj attained perfection. Sixth, by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi attained perfection. Seventh, by rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. Eighth, through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. And ninth, by surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaj attained the desired result. Hare, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible now. You can read from this so-called human society. I'll just try to explain what was there in the.
Okay. So-called human society is generally engaged in at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have every little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about it. They have dismissed Lord's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring him to be impersonal, that is, without sense of perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether it is Upanishads, Vedanta Sudra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a sentient being and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he engages in godly activities without resting a second. Sri Upanishad directs us towards such godly activities. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death and when he is dislocated? And how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the result of such practice at the time of death. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this particular mantra says about 84 lakh species and how they are produced and what is the lifespan and all. But evolution of to a human life from a tiny animal to a tiny minute particulate matter to a human being with a consciousness and all of human beings also, men, women, and much differentiation as per the different varnas and caste and all those things. But whatever said and done, uh, people may be from the lower than the chandalas, but if they wish to that is also Krishna's mercy. If they wanted to take up this path of Krishna consciousness, they will get automatically relieved from that burden, and they can get elevated to the higher planets. The only thing is that they need to take up that path. Then he will give the required pathway. And 9 types of bhakti is been described here, and examples of 9 types of bhakti is also mentioned here. At the same time, one should either any type of bhakti if we take. So how the above individuals like Lord Hanuman or Prahlad Maharaj, all those people got relieved. Similarly, anyone who take up the bhakti marga will definitely get relief from this misery of material life of birth and death. Okay, so and this yeah, people who are in the materially engaged, they are much attached to their family and try to spend most of the time in the family affairs, and that is again deviating from your usual path of remembering the Lord. So how do you remember? Why we have to remember? Because at the time of death, unless you don't make it a habit of remembering God day in and day out, it is next to impossible to remember him at the time of death. They say thousands of scorpions, if they're stinging at a time, such a pain will be there when the person is leaving this material body. So unless it is in your routine, the Krishna, it is very, very difficult and impossible to remembering him at a time of death. So we should try to do some sacrifices. That means and denying the interest of the senses, not to please our senses, and we should always try to employ our senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. In that way, one can practice remembering Lord at the time of leaving this body. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Next, the last shloka of this.
Mataji,
Shall I?
Mataji,
Yes, ma'am.
how big this shloka is?
This, I think, shall we do it tomorrow?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Yeah.
Actually, I have class at 9 p.m. 9 p.m.
What class you have?
We have our japa session, daily japa session at night.
Okay, okay.
Mataji have given that seva to me, so
Okay.
I have to.
No problem. No problem. Tomorrow we'll complete the 18th sloka. Okay?
Yes, Mataji.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, participants. Tomorrow we'll meet again at 8 p.m. Hare Krishna.